Get decked.
Now, Kevin asked us a much harder question next because it's a short question, and this should give you an indication of the difficulty of the answer.
Yeah, it's a short, really simple question, but you know, it's got so many different answers to it.
He just asked, how do you design the best winning deck? Wow, I'll go first on this one, but I basically have to break it into two halves. What he's asking is kind of out there. You say, how do you design a winning deck or the best winning deck? Well, you can say, what are the safest strategies? How do you get there fast? Whatever it is.
And also, to me, what you have to look at that point is you have to look at yourself and you have to say, what is my play style? Because a lot of the times in a lot of different card games, this is what ends up happening. The meta dictates what everyone plays. And there'll be a lot of people that jump on the bandwagon. That's not how they play. They don't know how to play that. And they get their butt kicked because of that.
Yep.
You know, people that take a passive deck that don't know how passive decks work, or people that take a really aggro deck and they're not aggro players. You know, like me, myself, and I don't play an aggro deck the same way as a lot of people play an aggro deck. I play a very passive aggressive, and you know, that's how I've always played. I played Orange Krillin. Everyone's like, oh, that's just such an aggro deck. Nope, I went in a lot of combats with just nothing but blocks in my hand because I knew that I would make my opponent draw 3 cards, and I knew that they would waste all their resources on me, or even a time maybe after I threw my first attack, which is the best thing in the world when they throw a time, and you're just like, okay, I got nothing but blocks in my hand, so you just wasted that. That's what I'm saying. You gotta learn how you play, and you gotta find a style that fits you. That's the other important thing, really, in this game.
We'll actually take a second and just for giggles define all the styles broadly. Clearly they can be played in any manner, but we're just saying that what are their strengths. Red, of course, is generally a physical deck.
The overarching theme with Red is that they are anger.
Yes.
And they are I won't say heavy hitters, but they are the most crit happy people that you will ever find.
Yeah, this is of course
they have different ways of doing that. That comes back to the old first mastery for them.
Oh, gosh.
And especially with the new ones, they're all about banishing and moving stuff from banish and stuff. But they're at their core anger.
Yes. So that's pretty straightforward. Like we said, you can play this in different manners. Defensive postures like Roshi, offensive postures like, say, any version of Vegeta, or
even like energy, like that.
There are plenty of
that red Yamcha.
Yeah.
Really far.
You can do things. Like we're just saying is that you have the opportunity to play these in different ways.
But to give you an idea, anger is red.
So blue, of course, would be a little different. Blue is a combination, mostly anger lowering and, of course, defensive. Generally speaking.
Yes. And ally.
That's the other thing. Blue, we've always had the criticism that it's trying to do too much. It's blue. No, I'm sorry. Blue is ally, Dragon Ball, energy, physical, and anger lowering and defensive. It has
kind of just the jack of all trades, and now it's gaining that anger gain a lot more than they used to.
Because if you were to weigh it out, I suppose proportionally it had the same number of anger raising cards, but that's just it. The effect on the card is all you get. The mastery generally didn't help.
No, yeah.
So that's kind of why that was that way. So blue is a very basic style. It's usually a person's first for some reason. We end up in blue or Saiyan.
I was gonna say I didn't really end up in blue, but I've done some really cool, fun things with blue. So
you'd have orange. Orange is really obvious.
It is field control.
Where you see on every single card the word drill appears on there somewhere.
Usually, 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. So you realize real quick you are a
drill oriented.
It means you place cards into play and you set up better conditions for yourself thereby. The limitation is that you can sometimes get caught off guard in combat drawing cards you can't use.
Yeah, or you get caught off guard and you level and you lose them.
Yeah, that can be tricky.
But at the same time, it was a way out for a lot of those weaker state power level wise decks to be able to put pressure, whether it be energy or now recently with the physical.
Oh, exactly. Why we bring any of this up is that, again, orange is generally, people would assume it's energy from the olden days and early orange. But no, it can easily be physical. There's no question with the modern masteries, with the modern cards.
With like a lot of the drills that are out there, you can easily get someone like Turtles, or you can get Turles, but you can get Turles or Napa or even Nail, and you can get them to where their AT is always 4 and do like 4 plus 5 stages plus whatever your mastery is plus whatever drills you have on the play, and it adds up real quick.
Next on the list would be Black. I have a strange criticism of Black immediately off the top of my head. It's not accurate. Don't take it to heart. It has nothing to do with anything. I consider it the coward style. It's because you're always trying to find a way to get at somebody sideways. You're not a straightforward fighter for the most part.
No, it is the way that they had originally called it was the deceptive style. You do a lot of deck searching, milling, removal, but also you slime your anger, and you slime it real quick. You don't care if your attacks get blocked because you're gaining 2 anger off of it. You don't care that they don't do any damage. You're gaining anger off of it. Your blocks, anger gain,
It's because for the most part, the mastery has never interacted to actually give you anger, aside from perceptive, but that was roll of the dice. That was a gamble.
Yeah.
So the big idea is just to be, if you play Black, you are the kind of person who enjoys coming at it sideways.
You also have a good knowledge of just about every deck.
That's the other thing you guys were telling me about.
Yeah, because in all honesty, a lot of their cards say name a card, so you have to have a general idea of, okay, this kind of deck usually runs this card, usually runs this card or this card. For a while, I stopped running Destructor Disc because that's the first thing everyone went for. They're like, oh, Destructor Disc. And then they go through my deck and it's like, oh, there's none there. What do? You just wasted it.
So surprise is actually kind of a big deal. So let's see. So we've gone through the last 2 styles. That's what's left.
Saiyan and Namekian.
Okay, now we should explain. Saiyan in the old game was very different from this one. Saiyan in this one, or especially early on, was one of the not least focused. It was just attack.
Yeah, it was just attack based.
It naturally assumed you were going to carry a few blocks and attack very hard.
Yeah, well, the whole point was your mastery made all your attacks gain in anger. So, when that happened, you would play, and it was very core oriented. You played every card that would give you an anger, so that way you gain 2 anger, things that rejuvenate, so that way you gain an anger, things that would do that for you.
What we're saying is that it was actually one of the easiest to understand. You simply were a kamikaze. You simply expect to attack 3, 4, 5, 6 times in combat. That's about it.
It still kind of kept that a little bit, but now it's a little more diversified. I feel like because they're especially with my time dabbling with Napa, with the stage drain cards and the mechanics of that, you could go in with really not a lot of attacks at all and still just mill your opponent to death.
You can do some mean stuff. Like we said, there's lots of different ways to come at these things.
Yeah. And that's what it comes down to, and that's why I said, everybody has a different idea of how to build a deck.
I'll explain Namekian style last, because
that is our last one.
Well, I've intentionally left it for last. You see, Namekian style went through a pretty radical shift. In the old game, whether you obviously newer audiences wouldn't know, Namekian style technically didn't exist for the first few sets of Scores DBZ. It was actually a later one. In fact, so few cards existed for its style. Many cards in the set in which it premiered actually say you may have up to 8 copies of this card in your deck, and it's funny when you play catch up the things you have to do. But what I'm getting at is back then the Namekian style was really strange. You healed from almost everything. You gained stages from almost everything. There's one thing it didn't do. It did not raise anger one bit. Nothing about that style originally organically raised anger.
Well, and then we look at that first mastery. That one was the most rewritten mastery, or card even, for that matter, for the whole game. Because they wanted to try to make it different, and Pani's like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Yes. And so they said, hey, whenever you heal yourself by rejuvenating, gain an anger. Hey, whenever you play a Dragon Ball mill.
What we're getting at is that they had to try to make it distinctive, but also reminiscent of the old game.
So they were trying to make it its own thing. They're Dragon Ball, obviously, because the Dragon Balls come from the Namekians, so they play an intricate part of how they fight. At the same time, the rejuvenative properties of the Namekians is also a big key thing, so they wanted to make that a thing. But the problem that they got with that is you just saw these decks that just sat there and just didn't do anything, because then I got to rejuvenate a card and gain an anger at the end of my turn. So they said, okay, well, that's got to be combat now, during combat.
Right. This is what we're saying is that it was intended not always as a very active. It was more of a passive style deck.
Well, it was more of a, I gotta set up, and then once you go in on me, then we go on for a long time, and I keep on going past you, and I keep on rejuvenating, I keep on healing, and I keep on pulling out these Dragon Balls. And that's what it did when it was back in its heyday, and then they had to change that, and then they had to change the milling because the problem is that
The double
you
mill
do
thing.
you'd have everyone playing Piccolo, then they'll be like, oh, I play, or any of the Namekians, Nail or whatnot, and they'd be like, hey, I play this Dragon Ball. Crap, we both have to mill. And then it went to whenever you play Dragon Ball, your opponent mills one.
It was an interesting exercise. We've never seen any card in one game. Oh no, Panini, I should say, requiring so many revisions. It had by far the most many card.
But at the same time, that really showed how much they were dedicated to making this game, balanced and, helpful, and how much they loved it,
Very appreciated. So why we gave you the brief overview is just we're talking about the best winning deck. That we explained to you sort of the focus of each deck. Is it anger? Is it beatdown? Is it Dragon Ball manipulation? Is it MPPV?
And I had the answer to that question. Yes.
We're not
it is
even kidding.
however you feel like it is. Because we look at this new set and it's all about, Namekian's all about Earth Dragon Balls and putting them into play and getting either that Dragon Ball victory or leveling out that way or, something along those lines. But we still have the second mastery that we had that was the aggro fighter beat stick one, so you can go however you want. You just got to pick what's good for you and what you like.
So to answer the other half of your question, it goes like this. How does one make a best winning deck? Well, like we said, we just defined basically what each deck can be made to do and made well. But here's the thing. Whatever you choose, whatever color you choose, whatever play style you choose, you must build a deck that is focused on a win condition.
Yep.
Now, this is difficult because this played with my mindset. I came from the old game. I had to build a deck that was good against everything. So there wasn't a whole lot of room for a focused singular theme in the old Score Z. So I had a very hard time learning that in this version of the game. When I finally had it beat into me, you are building a deck with the win condition. Is it MPPV, beatdown, DB victory? If that's
Or outlasting, yeah.
or outlasting survival.
Survival. Yep.
And are your card choices
Or
facilitating
milling.
that? Well, milling
Even
is
milling's
another
becoming a
strategy.
thing now.
Yeah, it was always hinted at with like Wheelo, but it was never what it could have been.
Yep, and then the new Cell just took it to the next level.
Wow, a lot. Jeez. Here's a strange thing. We were talking about theme. What's the theme of your deck? If you were building, like we said, a winning deck, what did Red Roshi do for the longest time that made us hate him so much?
Stall and anger out.
Yep.
Stall, anger out, and DB, which is that was the triple threat that the Namekians had for a long time. It could do everything. It could just survive. It could level out. It could DB victory, and that's why Red Roshi was so stupid. That's Orange Roshi won because he just leveled out.
So what we're getting at is if you focus on your win condition, make sure that each card in turn contributes towards your win condition, and make sure you stick to your theme. It's difficult. It's not too difficult to see your deck winning in a lot of scenarios. Mm-hmm. The darndest thing is this, and we can't say this enough. You could build a deck that is prepared to take down another popular deck, but if you're not facing said popular deck,
then it's not going to do anything. The one thing that I always had the hardest time with the Nappa stage mill was against the Namekians because they just had cards that was just like gain stages. Yeah, what do I do with that? And then they're just like, oh, well, here's your answer to that. You've got Saiyan Trap now, and you've got, Surprise Attack. You've got this now.
those were the days, boy.
But even at that, just being able to have couple texts like I would have an Empower Drill that said, hey, you can gain all the stages you want, you're still going to 5. And I can still mill you quite easily from 5.
Bad memories coming back.
And that's just kind of the thing where you have to figure out your theme and you have to figure out cards that go with your theme. Because if I'm at 5, you're at 5, that's easy for me to get you down to where then I can just mill you with stage damage effects.